everybody can.
I can.
Yeah, that's how I learn best. So lectures work for me, but it's also in reality just something that a lot of teachers are going to expect that you can do. So I would rather teach you the skill of lecture listening, um, and hopefully by me teaching that to you guys, you can all learn like this some way. All right. So unless you have an A in this classroom, you should have your notebook or your Chromebook closed. No, close your Chromebooks. Close your Chromebooks. Close your Chromebooks. All right. Unless you have an A, you have to have a closed Chromebook. It is Unit 3, Day 2. All right. Unit 3, Day 2. You were literally what, playing a game? Is that what you said? Yeah, it's class. Yeah, it's class time. We don't play games. What in the world, mister?
What's that on YouTube?
Yeah, it's going to be on there. Oops. All right. So it is 10:30, 25. We should be waking up to take notes about Unit 3, Day 2. Okay, but you're not taking notes. All right, Unit 3, Day 2. Judges 13 and 14. Judges 13 and 14. All right, Judges 13 and 14 today. What we're going to talk about, there's a few things. I also want to say this. Judges 13 and 14, Samson's birth, but it's going to be kind of a two-part lecture. We're talking first a Bible portion, and then we're going to cut to an English lesson, essentially, where I'm just going to teach you how do you write a good cohesive essay. All right? So we're going to do two parts. The first is our Bible section, and then it's the how do we write a good cohesive essay? What am I actually expecting when I ask you to write this and connect these two paragraphs? So we're going to walk through how to do that, a little bit of research stuff, and then we'll get more in depth about research stuff next class. But it's Samson's birth. We get a lot of symbolism here, all right? Samson's story highlights righteousness of his mother. Righteousness of his mother. All right, here is the important part. One of the notable things to have. His mother is a woman that is barren, meaning she can't have kids. In ancient times, in the Old Testament, that is understood to be shameful, right? It's who must have sinned for you to be barren and not be able to have a child? Somebody did something wrong. So it's a shameful thing. She's a lowly person, right? She is a low status person. Whether we like that or not, it's not good, right? But by her being highlighted, right, it highlights the righteousness of his mother, or in other words, Samson's birth story, Samson's birth narrative shows God's compassion. Then I like to write Yahweh's compassion the lowly. All right, the compassion for the lowly. This is obviously an important thing and something to note. It's obviously important too to note that the mother is seen as righteous in a time when mothers weren't really cared about. Women weren't really cared about in this ancient world. So it is a notable thing for feminist scholars. A lot of feminist scholars, it's are gaining popularity. Believe it or not, there are feminist Bible scholars that look at what's the feminist side of this text. How do we explain this and understand this? I don't always love that stuff, but it has value, right? And there is some good research there. If that interests you, this is one of the stories that those scholars are going to look at, right? One of the places that you could go for research is to look at feminism and the Judges story, or feminism and ancient story or the early parts of the Torah, whatever it may be. But there's a lot of stuff about this. But what we highlight is that Yahweh has compassion for the lowly, right? And we're looking at this again as Judges written, I believe I said this last class. Let's see, written about pre-monarchic history to instruct post-monarchic living. Right? We've talked about this before, but one of the things that we see through this story, through this folk story, because these are folk heroes, is that the redactors are focusing on God's compassion. Redactors are looking, and not just at, looking for God's compassion. Give me 1 second, I'll tell you.
Mister, what is that?
Post-monarchy, after kings, right? When the kings were destroyed and Israel is taken, so the redactors are looking at these stories. They're looking at stories of their folk heroes, right? John Henry, Johnny Appleseed, the founders of America. We like Paul Bunyan, right? In modern times, we look at those stories and we go, wow, look at how great they were. This is how America was formed, right? And we're telling these stories to try to kind of, reinvent our history, but also to try to say this is what makes America so cool, is these tough things. The ancient Jews are doing the same thing. Those redactors are doing the same thing here. So in order to understand this, we need, as we dive further into the Samson story, Samson is best understood. So here's our quote, is best understood as a folk hero narrative and then transform or understand all characters, understand all people in the story, as characters, not just historical figures. All right, as characters, not just historical figures. All right, my handwriting got a little sloppy in there, but we should understand with the same story. Yeah. What? Yeah. All right, we should understand all the people in the story. I want us to grasp this. I'm going to kind of derail from writing stuff because it takes so long for a little bit, but I'd still want you to be writing things, right? Think of these as your headlines. You're writing this, and then you're writing subpoints as I yap. When we understand all the people, not as historic figures, but as characters, what we start to see is this pattern that we've already seen in Judges and we'll keep seeing, but is Israel's in exile, right? Israel suffering their rebellion. We saw the cycle of sin and how the cycle of sin connects to Israel's current punishment. Right? Last class we talked about the cycle of sin and how Israel's current punishment is somewhere along this cycle for them. Now in this story, we can think of Samson and Nazarite. I don't know how to spell this, so I'm just taking my best guess, but I know that's Nazarite vow represent Israel and covenant. Israel and covenant. All right. So, man, that's bad handwriting, but sorry. All right. Samson and the Nazarite vow represent Israel covenant. Be prepared to take a bunch of notes right underneath here. When Samson is born, his mother gets told, oh, you're going to have a kid even though you're barren. And she makes a deal with God and says, you do this and I will have him take the Nazarite vow from birth. All right, so you need to know, obviously, what the Nazarite vow is. And there's a few components that are super duper important that help us grasp all of the parts of this story. So please, please, please pay attention. Be ready for notes on this. The Nazarite vow is a temporary vow, typically temporary vow, to have an outward showing of devotion to God. So, temporary vow for an outward showing of devotion to God. The Nazarite vow is a temporary vow. I'm going to just move way over here. It's a temporary vow to show the devoutness to God, right? Outward showing devoutness to God. Yeah, you should be writing that. Yeah, even if I don't write it on the board, you need to write all important stuff. And I said it like 6, 7 times. So, all right, here's what the Nazarite's vow is. Right? It's a vow that temporarily, typically for a while, but not forever, you will not cut your hair. You will not eat anything that comes from a corpse. Anything. You will not touch a dead body. Right? No touching of a corpse. And no drinking of alcohol. All right, so no drinking of alcohol, no cutting of your hair or shaving of your head, and no touching anything from a corpse. I am out on 2 of the 3 of those. I'm not going to tell you which ones.
It's alcohol.
No, it's the hair, obviously. Obviously. All right, but here's the deal. What in a vow, typically, who gets to make the vow for somebody? Like, who gets to make a promise for somebody?
Me.
Themselves, right? In this story, Samson's mom makes it for him. Right? Samson's mom makes this for him. Which in some ways, mom represents the patriarchs. All right, I'm going to walk you through my connections here, how I decided this. All right, she represents the patriarchs, yeah. Because Samson and the Nazarite vow is like a miniature version, it's a really iconic version of Israel's story of suffering. If we match up the exile story, they match up pretty well. Because Israel, what did they have to do as an outward showing of devotion? They have to circumcise themselves. They have to keep a diet, right? They have to do some of these things. So Israel has a promise and a covenant to God that they have to do as a people. So this is how Samson, he has a vow. But who makes that covenant on behalf of Israel? The patriarchs, the people before them, right? It's not all the Israelites saying, we've agreed with this and we have to do this. It's the decision's been made for them. So Samson is lining up. We're getting these echoes of Israel in the Samson story. They line up really neatly. Next class, we'll talk about Samson getting held captive, being tricked by Delilah, who is basically a prostitute, probably closer to more of like a stripper, but whatever. Yeah, and then they cut his hair, right? Because he has this long hair, and then so he used to be buff, right? Used to be Mr. Big and Strong, and then shaves his head, and he becomes like me, right? That's what happened to me. I used to be really strong and giant, but then I shaved my head, and I just shrank overnight.
Why would you nerf yourself?
I nerfed myself, dude. I couldn't help it. Well, I was OP, so I had to nerf myself. All right.
It was too open.
So here's the thing. What we see Samson do straight away in today's story, when we actually get to reading it, the first thing that we see Samson do, we see him it's talked about that he's born. It says he's born. He's going to be raised up as a judge. The very first thing he does is break the vows. All right. It's notable that he breaks the vows straight away. I would say that's a good thing to have in your notes, is that first thing we see Samson do is be unfaithful to his vows. Immediately. He immediately goes and scoops out honey from a dead lion. Then he takes then he goes and makes a...
Wait, what does he do?
Yeah, there is a type of wasp that makes honey.
Wasp or a lion?
No, there's a type of wasp that makes honey out of corpses. And
Does it taste good?
probably not. Apparently it tastes like meat. A dead lion. But he finds a dead lion, but it's a folk story, right? It's going to have exaggerated stuff. What? First thing Samson does is find honey out of a dead lion, right? He's breaking his vow of touching anything dead. Then he makes a bet with some Philistines. He goes and slaughters 300 of them with a jawbone. He finds a jawbone of a donkey, rips the donkey's jawbone out, right? Which you could say is pretty badass.
Whoa.
Got him. All right. Yeah, pretty tough. So he goes and takes a donkey's jaw and he kills 300 people. And then he goes and gets super drunk, right? He goes and gets hammered. He throws a big party. So he's broken his vow 2 of the 3 times, yeah. And then the final time he breaks the vow, God puts him in he gets in punishment, and then eventually has his eyes gouged out, and it echoes the exile pretty good, right? And then eventually when he repents, God allows him to destroy the enemies. So we see this echoing again of the Israel story and covenant in Samson. All of these stories in some way are highlights of history, of Israel's history. But this one in particular is like this big overview of where they're at in the exile then. All right, that's all that I'm going to talk about for Bible stuff. But we have part 2 of my lecture now. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. At some point, I'm going to be forced to erase this. But let's try to take notes. I would section it off as part 2 is writing a cohesive essay. Writing a cohesive essay. All right. The goal of a cohesive essay is not just writing random things, right? It's not just summarizing. This is something that you guys do struggle with. It's not really your fault. You just don't know better. Your brains just do this. It starts summarizing big chunks of text and thinking that that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking you for you to create new things, all right? Research papers have 2 components. Or research has 2 components. Has 2 parts. 2 major components, I'll say. I'm sure there's others. Major components. Investigation, and analysis. Now, of course, you still have to write that research, but investigation and analysis. We've spent a lot of time on analysis so far this semester. We're going to work on this a little bit more, and a lot of this is on this, and then just putting these things together. But investigation is what I'm asking you guys to do for those essays where I say, here's 2 paragraphs, combine them, find something common, and write the paragraphs in the middle. What I'm asking for is for you to do some investigation, to go past the AI stuff, to use these giant books, these Anchor Bible dictionaries that I have, to find things that are common. That was
We lost Aura.
I lost Aura for sure on that. All right, but you have to do some investigation and you have to do some analysis. So I want to walk us through all these components as quickly as I can. All right, because research is a continual deep dive into things. Here's my example of this. All right, let's say you got a guy here.
No.
You don't have to unless you feel like it. I'm going to do some masterful art here. All right, so let's say I decide it's a nice summer day, right? It's a nice warm day, or like those days we had in October where it's 85 degrees for some reason. And I go to a pool, nice, big, wide, long pool. All right, that sounds pretty nice, right? We all want to go to a nice pool on a hot summer day. Who doesn't? No? Yeah, all of us do. All right. Now, what about if I decide I'm going to dive into the pool? Which one of these pools should I go to if I decide I want to go diving? Which pool? What? Why not? Why?
Because that was more deeper than the first one.
I don't know, but this one could be awesome. I could swim long laps in. I could swim long laps.
You could drown in there.
I'm going to bang my head, right? Yeah, unless I'm Alicia's size, I'm going to bang my head against the floor. And even then, maybe still. All right? Over here, yeah, it's not very big and wide, but it's deeper. This is what research is, all right? I want you to think of this class. This class is this side, all right? I'm quickly skimming over large chunks of things, and I'm going to give you the information to get over to this pool, but I'm not doing the deep dive. That's again why the AI summary or even these articles is not, and again, it's not shaming anybody, it's just saying an AI summary is a summary. All that summary is this shallow stuff. We're trying to get out of the shallow pool into our deep end, right? We're going to go into the deep end of the pool going forward is what I'm asking for you guys to do. All right. One of the best ways to do this is to analyze in at least two of the ways that we have learned to analyze text this semester so far. All right. So there's two. You would start writing down again. I'm going to put in parentheses of many ways to analyze theology and Bible text. Theology and Bible. Whether you are in a theology class or a Christian ethics class or a Bible class, there's two of many ways to analyze theology and Bible. You could even just get rid of the theology, just do Bible. How are we analyzing these texts? What are we looking for? All right? Because just like when we played that game earlier of our connections game, you're looking for something common between them, right? You want to have something common. So what are you looking for that's in common? One of the ways you got to do is start by grabbing the original and pulling some pieces out. What's the main things? Yeah, what's your evidence? So you start with your first piece of what is this even telling me, right? Here's two of our pieces of evidence. That's the words you guys have been taught, so I'll try to use that. First thing, we could look for the genre. All right? The genre of our text. So the shape and style of text. All right. Anybody tell me the Samson story? What would it look like if I said this story is pure history and the author is writing a historical document versus this author is telling me a folk story? What am I going to get different from those two things? Anybody? How am I going to understand the story differently? I'm going to miss out on this metaphor, I'll tell you that. If I just think it's a historical thing telling me about some guy, I'm going to miss out on this metaphor here. I'm not going to notice it. Because I'm not going to connect these dots in this way. I'm going to say they just want us to know that they're really strong and tough. So the first is the shape and style. This is when we've done our myth to history. Right? What does it look like? You might just analyze for the grammar, the style, is it a poem or whatever. What does it make us think about and set in its historical place? The next is the theology. This one's important too. Theology. All right. Theology, we know about this. We call it views of God sometimes, right? What we know about God. Views of God is kind of the easier term for it. But theology, I'm going to have to kneel down and write this, I think. And I'm sorry for getting so low on the board. I'll leave this chunk up here so that even if you don't miss it, leave yourself a spot so that you can come up and look at it later. But theology is what the text implicitly, IMPLICITY, implicitly and explicitly tells us about God. you know about Yahweh implicitly or explicitly? Who knows? You're probably going to have to do my little arrow thing to get the definitions of implicit and explicit. Who knows what implicitly means?
I know
Anybody?
what it means, but
Does it mean like in detail?
In detail, I see why you would say that. Does anybody else know what implicitly means? What about explicitly? All right, I'll give you. Implicitly means, yeah, in the details. It's through the details, right? You know it. It's implied. It doesn't have to say it. It doesn't tell you directly, but it's implied there. It's indirect, indirectly in the details telling you something. Implicitly means through the details, it's there without direct statements. So which one is explicitly going to be? Direct statements, right? So if I walk in, and when I walked in earlier, and I said, my advisory unlocked strict lang, I'm not in a great mood, what does that tell you about my advisory?
they're bad.
They're bad.
boys.
They unlock, yeah, they're bad boys. They unlocked strict lang. Now, when I then told you the story of what they did, getting us kicked out of chapel, in front of, that was yesterday, getting us kicked out of chapel in front of all the other seniors in the school, that's explicit, right? That's telling you why, right? The implied, you could figure that they're bad because they did this thing. But when I say this is what they did, then you know, okay, yeah, that's explicitly, right? We are going to see all of these in the text. You can find, as you study these and look at them closer, you're going to see, well, maybe this chunk is giving me very specific tellings of God, or maybe I think I get it, and here's my evidence. All right. Now, here's the next thing. I got a couple more sections to do. And then,
my God, it never ends.
it doesn't. This is the lecture that never ends. All right.
This is a page that's literally full.
All right, here's the deal, guys. You should applaud yourself. Don't actually do that. Brooke, I knew you were going to do that. But be proud of yourselves, for most of us are making it pretty far into this lecture. All right, a few sleepyheads, but not too many. The usual suspects. So, usual suspects. So,
Junior.
we're going to keep on going here and talk about. Also, this is a crazy amount of notes that I have. You guys should have way more notes than just this. Is that true?
No, mister, I have like half a page.
That's it?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
I'm just like, I have a page and a half.
All right. This is the bare minimum of what I hope you have. All right. We have claim, evidence, reasoning. If you went to middle school here, you heard this. CER. You know, Brooke, you saying this the other day is what made me realize that you guys don't know how to get past this. Which is okay, but it's what made me aware and made me work on this lesson. And then I talked with Miss Hine, and she said, you know, it's really amazing that you're trying to teach them this in October, but we don't teach kids this usually until sophomore year in the spring. Too bad. Too bad for you guys. I'm trying to get you, what? I'm teaching you now. I want good writers in this class. I don't want any more Bobo writing, all right? I want good writing. It's not, again, not your fault. No shame on you yet. But I want you to be a good writer. I would love if all of my students, if there was like this weird chunk of the freshman class, that everybody said, wow, this weird chunk is really good. They're maybe poorly behaved in a classroom, but they're really, really good at writing. And I'd go, yeah, that's me, right? I'm teaching you bad classroom management and good writing. Yeah. You guys are my only class that, unless it just changed today when I updated grades, my only class where everybody is passing.
Actually?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. So, yeah, believe it or not, everybody in here is passing.
That's surprising to hear.
Yeah.
Mister, you should give me a there.
You know, it was a surprise to me too when I looked at it, if I'm being honest. But
It says claim, evidence, recovery.
reason. I'm super proud. You guys are great. All right. So,
You heard that, guys? We're
well,
the
I'm
best.
your funniest teacher, that's for sure. So, claim. Here's the thing. You guys have been taught that every paragraph has all three of these, right? This is a paper structure more than it's a paragraph structure. But your claim is we're gonna move past just the paragraph where you have that thing where you go, this is the case and I'm gonna prove it. Instead, claim is the central argument. The central argument of the paper. The central argument of the paper, or the consistent thread being investigated. All right, you're not always going to stay right on this one thing, right? You're not going to stay on one specific easy claim. You're going to move around the claim at all times, right? The claim is something that you're pulling on, trying to grasp at. And yeah, but you're investigating, right? There's something there, and you're investigating deeper and deeper into that pool. The claim is the weight that pulls you into that pool over and over and over, right? When you're diving deep into the pool here, that's the claim. Now, evidence. All right. All right, here's this. Research that supports your belief. That supports your belief given
Did you just say a cuss word at me?
in footnotes. Guys, let's just hang in there for a few more minutes, please. We can do it. All right. Yeah. Research that supports your belief given in footnotes. All right. I want to make a few things incredibly clear. I hope everybody takes note of this stuff. All right. I hate the phrase. I am an enemy of the phrase, I know this because.
Me too.
All right. You guys have all been taught, and it's okay, it's not your fault. I don't want you to feel like it's your fault. You've all been taught to say, so-and-so says this. I know this because so-and-so says this. Don't do that anymore. All right? Write something in a note to yourself to say, no more, I know this because, or I believe this because, whatever that means. No more of that. We're going to get past that. From now on, what you do is you just make the claim, and you just state something that's fact. And then you put a little footnote at the end of the sentence that you stated something. So you finish your sentence off. You put a little footnote there. And where is my footnote going to go? Anybody have an idea where a footnote goes? At the foot of the page. Look at this. Footnote. Right? This is where your claim is from now on.
What is the last word?
Given in footnotes. This is where your claim is. When you make a claim, let's say you tell a joke. So, you guys come into my class all the time, and I tell really funny jokes. So one of these days, you go, man, just like normal Mr. Lang, he just told the funniest joke I've ever heard. So you want to replicate that joke, right? Because obviously you do, because I'm so funny. So you decide to replicate it. Now, if you just go do that, and you go replicate my super funny joke to your friends, and they happen to be in my class, you know what they're going to say? That's really lame of you to steal such a cool guy's joke, right? They're going to say, that guy's funny, he did it, you can't steal his joke. But if you say, hey, did you hear that joke Mr. Lang said, and then say it, or if you just make the joke, and then they go, that's really funny, you go, yeah, heard it from Mr. Lang, but I reworked it. You know what they're going to do? Wow, good for you for reworking that material, right? They're not going to think you're a lame-o plagiarizing things. They're just going to think you remembered stuff. Can we see the difference on this, right? You're telling me where you got it, but you know what I actually have to do now from a footnote? I have to go look it up. You tell me where to look it up, where you can find it, and then I have to go click that link and follow that investigatory path, and I have to get that. But it's you, your claim, your evidence is now in footnotes. So you don't do the phrase, here's my evidence, put it in footnotes from now on, right? Just make the claim as if you made it. You just say, I did the thing, here's my information. All right, your reasoning. We're almost to the end, my guys. You guys are actually doing really well. I know you want to be done, but we got just a little bit more. All right. Reasoning is the continual conversation, continual support, and justification for the beliefs, or just a continual support for the claim. Continual support for the claim. Don't say, I know this because or whatever. You just know it, and you just tell it to me. You cite what you have to. Anytime a claim pops up, you put a citation on it if you need to do that. But you're just going to continually support your claim, right? You're going to continually show me more and more things that make you be right. Your job is to be right. Your job is not just agree with me. I don't care if you agree with me or not. Your job is to show me that you know what you're talking about. You guys do this when you talk. How many of you guys talk about something and go, oh, there's this video game, and on this video game, if you do this thing, you have to do this, and I know that you have to do this thing because of this. You don't, right? You just go, this is the best video game, and you just tell me. You just tell me this is the best game, and then you work out from there, right? You talk like this, write like this. All right. I'm going to erase this big chunk, and then we have one last thing to write, and we're done. This is going to be... Yeah. Yes, you should always use what I teach you for the essays. Yes. The information in the essays, you know it. Put it into your own words. It's stuff you know now. You can use it. The essay where I give you the first two paragraphs, you're going to, or the first paragraph and the last paragraph, you're going to write that by next class.
So we're going to work on the semester project.
No. You'll see it in a second. I'll show you in a second. All right. All right, guys. We ready? Ready to go back to the last couple notes here? What? Just show it to her later. All right. So I have this exact one that I'm using every time. This is, I want all of us to have this. All right. Generally, now, it's not perfectly this, but generally speaking, this is what your paragraphs look like in these essays that I'm asking you to write. What your paragraphs all should look like. What I'm expecting when I write this paragraph, I'm expecting each of you guys to be able to do this pattern or something similar to it. That's how you link them and connect to them. Just as you guys had the game that you would play where someone said, where you guys would each say a part of a dumb meme and then just move inward from there, right? You were able to get there because you were doing the same pattern. So we're going to get on that same pattern here. All right. First sentence. The first sentence introduces a new idea. Introduces a new idea. All right. We can even say, and if necessary, connects to previous idea. To previous idea. All right. Every single paragraph should be an idea. That's how you write paragraphs. All of them are a different idea, but they're all interconnected, right? They are all woven together. Man, you guys look so tired, some of y'all. You got it, though. All right. The previous idea. Our second sentence, I'm just going to say next sentence. Next sentence
it never ends.
Starts a specific deeper claim. You're diving deeper into the pool now on your second sentence, right? Your next sentence again We're going to say third sentence. Third sentence. Third sentence. Builds on idea. Builds and finishes ideas. Now, you might need 3 or 4 or 5 sentences to do this. It's not always one. I'm just writing the super concise version. All right? I want that as a note, please. But final sentence. Final sentence. Neatly concludes the idea and warns about the new idea, the next idea. All right. Can anybody off the top of their head, this is our paragraph 1. See if you can give me the sentence of the first sentence of paragraph 2. The first sentence introduces a new idea and, if necessary, connects to previous idea. Next sentence starts a specific, deeper claim. The third sentence builds and finishes the ideas. Final sentence neatly concludes the idea and warns about the next idea. So I've warned about something, right? What have I warned about? Anybody have an idea for how I start my next paragraph? Yeah, basically the last idea, right? Yeah? Last idea is something about warning, or maybe another way to say this is, lets us know what to expect next. Tells me what's next, what to expect. All right, here's how I would do this. And I want to see if you can figure out if this makes sense to you. It should, but I would start my next sentence as, when you can anticipate what's coming next, when you can anticipate what's next, you can read faster. All right, what have I done here? All right, what have I done in my sentence? Anybody? When you can anticipate what's next, you can read faster. What is my paragraph going to be about? Somebody tell me what my paragraph will probably be about. Yeah. Okay, but what specific claim? I've introduced it probably. You guys should be able to get this. Come on. What's the new idea that I introduced here? How about reading faster? That didn't stick out to anybody?
No, because you don't need to.
What do you mean you don't need to? You don't need to read faster?
No.
Yes, you do. You don't want to read faster than you do already? You guys are such slow readers.
I'm a fast reader.
You need to take your time.
No, but you can read faster and better understand things. I have a 95% comprehension of reading, and I can read a dictionary page, like these Anchor Bible dictionary, the full big page. You can read one of those pages in about a minute and a half.
I could do that too.
Yeah.
Me too.
With 95% comprehension? I will test you. I'll test you, absolutely. You guys can read faster. This is our next claim, right? I'm going to write a new paragraph on this. This is the pattern I want you to follow. And try to use this to connect playing that game with my essays, right? Those essays are where I've given you the first idea. So the best way to do it is to find the idea in my first paragraph and the idea in my last paragraph. And then connect them together using this pattern. Connect them together using this pattern. All right, here's how I would like for you to spend the rest of the class, is non-disruptively. All right? So the rest of the class, just